Hey guys, Saiyans here bringing a Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so with the release of the upcoming Gohan, Trunks and Goten Reversible Exchange Dokkan Fest LR, the conversation is very much now back onto the Hybrid Saiyans team, and the fact that this category is now finally getting a new leader, a new buff, and there's been a few things that have kind of come along. I talked about during the video where I went over the details for the LR. Things like the STR Trunks, for GT Trunks getting his EZA and having the passive where it was revolving around GT Heroes or Hybrid Saiyans. And then, of course, Physical Pan has the passive revolving around GT Heroes or Youth. So it's kind of interesting to see that they obviously designed these characters with this future release in mind as well. And so that leads us to the topic of today's conversation, and that is the other buffs that we need to see from the Hybrid Saiyans in order to really turbocharge this team for the new LR, because a lot of people are complaining about the leader skill. Now, some of the units that we're going to mention are not going to be on the full 220%, but obviously if units are good enough, if EZAs are good enough, then they don't necessarily have to be getting the full leader skill to be good. All throughout the 200% lead meta, like we've been running characters who were only getting the 170 part of the leader skill. Obviously as events get tougher, that does become harder to do, but there are some Hybrid Saiyans EZAs that I think will definitely benefit the team overall, even if they are not getting the full leader skill. So I've gone through some of the ones that stood out to me as the top picks. Obviously, if there's any that I've missed out at all that you think could be due in EZA soon, or Super EZA as well, that is of course included in the discussion, that would heavily benefit this team, obviously do go ahead and mention them down below in the comments. So we're going to jump in with the first big obvious one, and that is the Tech Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the BoJack movie. This guy, I think, is now the oldest LR in the game that doesn't have an EZA. And of course, this guy would be on the full 220% lead because he is on Bond of Parent and Child. So he will be on the team. And this guy, certainly very interesting. He's a pretty straightforward unit. He just gets decent stat raises on Super. He does get a little bit of extra stats per key sphere obtained, so maybe some orb changing for him would be good. He has a chance to do an additional super, which is fairly low, so could buff that up a little bit. But then he also does get extra stats if there is a Movie Heroes Goku on the team. So that could certainly be interesting. For the Hybrid Saiyans team, obviously this doesn't provide much of a buff, but this would just be useful for other teams, things like Power Beyond Super Saiyan and some of the other stuff we've got going on now, where we've got characters like the Year 7 LR gods with their EZA, obviously a movie hero whose name includes Goku. So this guy could be very interesting, and of course, you know, the new LR themselves not just going to be used on their own team. So this guy getting an EZA would be a nice buff for the Hybrid Saiyans team, especially if they give him some other buff. Maybe he keeps this buff if there's a Goku. Maybe he gets a different kind of buff, maybe defense rather than attack, if there are Youth or Hybrid Saiyan allies, for example. I know that doesn't really fit the theme for a BoJack movie Gohan, though, so I probably wouldn't expect something like that. But it would be nice for him to have a little extra buff on a team where he's not being used with a Goku to give him that bit of versatility. But otherwise, I could see this guy's EZA coming very, very soon. As I say, he's the oldest LR without one. Now we know, I should preface this already, I should have said this at the very beginning. We obviously know they've announced the Super EZA for LR, Goten and Trunks. It's very possible that the EX part, as it will probably be fairly short, will only have the Goten and Trunks Super EZA. However, that's not necessarily the case, and there is a possibility that we will get another EZA or another Super EZA. I know when we were having the discussion about the upcoming unit, and I was going through those tweets and stuff by Proton and Rick, with all the data mining stuff, that there are gaps in the ID table in the files for EZAs. So there could still be an extra EZA potentially before the end of the EX part. So obviously it would be very cool if it was one of these units. So Gohan is a good option. Now they also mentioned in the producer letter the fact that the B-Pan event is getting an update. This event is going to become less stamina to use, more XP, higher link level chance, and seemingly, because obviously they stopped doing it during the GDC because we just had all the weekly missions for stones instead, but this will then now become the primary place that you get the dragon ores that you then obviously exchange, usually on a weekly basis. 4 Dragon Stones. So this event getting an update, I mean, they could have made a new event, they could have updated a different event to get the Dragon Ores or anything, but the fact that they chose to update this event specifically means that we very well could see a Super EZA for B-Pan, which would obviously be great, not just for this Hybrid Saiyans team, because Pan is on Bond of Parent and Child, she's also on Bond of Friendship, so she's on the 220% lead, but of course she would be on GT Heroes as well. And Pan is a character that has always been, at the time of release and then time of EZA, when she was still sort of meta relevant, useful for the teams that she's on, because she has the chance to stun where that is relevant. She heals based on the damage that she does, which is really good. And then of course she has this active skill that gives the multiplicative attack buff, and you can use it on turn 3. So imagine even in like shorter to medium level events, something like GT Heroes, and then you have Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta with a unit like STR Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So not only is he getting a bunch of his links, but he's also getting the attack support from Goku. Then you pop this B-Pan active skill, and it's like turn 3, and then Gogeta's dropping like 100+ million attack stats. Like, and if he got hit in the first turn, you can use B-Pan's active skill, get the massive buff, then use the Dragon Fist from Gogeta straight away on turn 3. Then get this like these crazy attack stats off for him because it's the active skill turn. I would actually love to see, if she did get the Super EZA, that exact rotation, that exact scenario, just how quickly he would potentially destroy Rose or Zamasu in that Rose Zamasu event. So B-Pan getting a Super EZA would be super beneficial for both this upcoming new hybrid team and the GT Heroes team. She's got no restrictions for allies or anything, so this would obviously be very, very good. Now, another one that I know people have long awaited and is kind of close on the list of Dokkan Fests in terms of chronological release that need an EZA is this AGL Kid Gohan from the Garlic Jr. saga. This guy has the potential to be super, super good because, of course, his main thing is that he's an all allies support for 3 key and 58% defense, and then he has an active skill that heals, gives him guard for the turn, and gives even more defense to allies, and that's a multi-turn buff for 2 turns. Now, active skills obviously don't change with EZAs, so the condition's not ideal, but obviously in some of these newer events it is kind of easy to get slapped pretty hard, and so as long as you survive and then are going into the next rotation with Gohan on the field, then obviously you're going to get this active skill, get a heal, get a big buff for the turn. This could obviously be very, very good. He gets extra attack and defense when there's another Heavenly Events ally in the same turn. There is a bit of crossover there with the Hybrid Saiyans units, especially including like Gotenks and stuff, right? So this could be very, very good. And then, yeah, obviously the thing when it comes to the unit super attack, needing a Piccolo or a Krillin, not really going to be very relevant for this team. I guess there's like the Namek, Gohan and Piccolo, but like probably not going to be very relevant for a Hybrid Saiyans team. But the only difference, like the unit super attack greatly raises attack for 1 turn, and has a slightly higher stun chance. So that's it really. Whereas this guy, obviously that's going to make a difference in the attack stats quite significantly. But this guy's EZA is probably going to be mainly for that new Hybrids team as this really good floating defensive support unit. So this guy getting an EZA would be really, really good for the Hybrids team. Obviously he's on Bond of Parent and Child, so he's on the full 220. So yeah, this would be very, very good. Then next up we have one who again is kind of in line. This unit came out 31st of May 2021, the Gohan. This unit came out October 2021, the AGL Transforming Trunks. Now this guy obviously has like a bit of a weird legacy because on release he was kind of disappointing in the sense that for the meta that we had at the time, he was worse transformed than he was untransformed. So that was kind of a disappointment, especially because his animations were really cool. He became a unit that just kind of died off really quickly and no one really talked about. I remember, funnily enough, typical luck in those kind of things where I didn't care about this unit at all. I summoned for him, obviously, for the content. Didn't care about this unit at all. And so, as always, when it comes to those kind of things for units that I really don't care about getting, I pulled like 4 copies of him in about 400 stones. So this guy's just kind of been sat in my box ever since he came back for the first time. And I ended up pulling a copy on the banner while summoning for the new character. This guy's just been sat in my box rainbowed for like what, over 3 years, because for global it was March 2022. So this guy's been sat in my box in global for like 3 years, rainbow, just not doing anything. So him getting an EZA would be pretty nice. The only problem is, of course, every Trunks that is before the end of the Cell games doesn't have Bond of Parent and Child. So because he doesn't have Bond of Parent and Child, he also doesn't have Bond of Friendship, and he doesn't have what's the other one? Why have I forgotten what the other part of their leader skill is? Siblings Bond, that's it. He's not on the full 220, so he could still be good if he gets a good EZA, but he won't be on the full leader skill. Now, another interesting one is this Kid Gohan. That is the Kid Gohan with Icarus. Obviously, Icarus isn't part of the card, so it isn't part of the name of the unit. But this unit was, awakened in for Global 2020, so even on Global over 5 years old. This character just gets a bunch of stats, has extra chances for extra attack. There's also dodge chance depending on which slot you put them in. They either get extra attack or defense or extra dodge. But then the big thing is they fully recover HP when HP is 30% or less. So with an EZA, the 30% or less could maybe go up a little bit, because obviously that is a bit dangerous, a bit risky getting that low. But something like this would be really useful, and is always useful on teams. That's why the Rose and Zamasu team having the Zamasu active thing is really useful. Any team having a sort of special ability that can clutch, like full heal you when you're low on health and in a potential dangerous situation, obviously is very, very good. So this Gohan and Icarus getting an EZA would be a really handy addition to this team in order to potentially get you out of some sticky situations with a full heal. The supreme damage, medium chance to stun isn't anything crazy, but obviously with an EZA, all of these sort of things would get beefed up. Maybe a little bit of support if they were the third attacker in the turn would be cool, and then they can just be on the team as a floating support. So these guys getting an EZA I think would be very, very good. Obviously they are on Bond of Friendship, Bond of Parent and Child. I mean, basically any Gohan is going to be on Bond of Parent and Child, so any Gohan unit is going to be getting the full leader skill anyway, right? Next up we have this Trunks, who for some reason was overlooked during the Broly worldwide celebration. There was like the 3 sub EZAs that they really should have done during that celebration, which was this guy from the first Broly movie, then the second Broly movie, there's the physical Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and then Bio Broly, obviously there was the Tech Krillin that could have gone along with the physical Goten and Trunks EZA. For some reason during that celebration they forgot that sub EZAs exist, but we have had quite a few sub EZAs during this celebration. So this guy getting his EZA now could be quite handy, considering of course he was very, very good on release and stayed relevant for quite a while, even though his passive is very basic. But obviously, you know, we're talking about 4 years ago. Attack and defense 200%, medium chance to additional super, and then hybrid Saiyans 3 key and 40% attack and defense. And on his super, he was raising his defense, right? So it wasn't, it wasn't infinite on there. It's infinite stack on the unit super, which is pretty good. So yeah, this guy was actually really good and useful on teams with hybrid Saiyan allies for ages as a support unit. So him getting an EZA here would be really, really good. When there's an ally whose name includes Gohan Youth attacking in the same turn, which obviously some of the other characters we've talked about and potential EZAs, or there's of course the 10th anniversary Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, obviously gives this guy his unit super, which makes him significantly better, makes him a stacker. So what could be very interesting is if they just made him a stacker and then made the unit super like greatly raise for stacking or something, would be kind of cool. But this guy has the potential to be very good. Unfortunately, again, being a Trunks that is from, like, obviously the Broly movie, it's weird how the movies fit into the timeline, but the Broly movie is supposed to be just before the Cell games, so no Bond of Parent and Child, which means he's only on the 170 lead. But if they gave him a good enough EZA, like bump up his stats, maybe give him some extra support, and then just give him some sort of like guard or damage reduction, even if it's conditional to like hybrid allies or something, considering that's where we're going to want to use him the most anyway, this guy would have the potential to be really, really good and be a good new support for that team. Then we also have an interesting one. Now this is a bit of a reach, I'm for sure, but they've just done, as part of the GDC, the STR Goku and AGL Vegeta Super EZAs, and they are 120 leads, or originally were 120 leads, right? The 120 lead meta. So that means they are starting to do 120 lead meta unit EZAs, which, you know, when we were talking about the potential for Baby to be the new unit, meant someone like AGL Super 17 could have been a candidate for a Super EZA. It does make me wonder whether we could potentially see physical Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks get a Super EZA, which would be kind of funny considering in terms of overall Super EZA units, how many do we have now? Like, have we gotten to 20? It'd be kind of funny that we have like 20 odd Super EZA characters and 2 of them are Super Saiyan 3 Gotenkses, because obviously there is the tech one already. But hey, I mean, Gotenks, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks got a leader in both of those metas, right? The 70% type units into the 120 type units. So that would be very, very interesting, because of course Gotenks, as I mentioned in the details for the new unit video when mentioning LR Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, he isn't on the full 220 lead, because Gotenks isn't on Bond of Parent and Child or Bond of Friendship, or the other one that I've already forgotten again, Siblings Bond. I'm going to keep forgetting that, I swear. But obviously he would still be on the 170 team. He could be interesting. I don't know, what would they have to do to make his Super EZA, though, to make him like better than the Tech LR one? Because I mean, you can still run both, obviously, but they have the same name. So with things with rotation locking or anything like that, I guess that could potentially cause some issue, but I suppose it's probably not the end of the world. But yeah, this guy could potentially get a Super EZA. I feel like in terms of likelihood of all the units that we've talked about, this is probably the least likely, because, you know, we've only just started the 120 lead meta. Getting the 2-year anniversary character ones was kind of special because the GDC is basically like the global anniversary. So I don't think we would necessarily get another 120 lead Super EZA while we still actually have some of the 70% lead ones to get. Well, it's just the physical Broly now because we got Omega. So I don't think I would expect to see it, but it's definitely a possibility. And then lastly, an interesting one is this, because considering the new unit is Gohan, Goten and Trunks, this is the unit that is actually just the 3 of them all together as a joined forces character. And these guys were the special anniversary free-to-play LR for the 7th anniversary. So they did Super EZA the Zamasu Goku, who was the 5th anniversary free-to-play LR. Of course, that does mean that Roshi is the 6th anniversary LR. He's the one that would, in theory, I guess, come next. But as we've seen now with stuff in Dokkan, they have very much over the last year or so been doing these EZAs out of order of release if they fit the theme of the celebration. So these guys getting an EZA could certainly be very interesting. Now, in terms of lead for like their passive, they need a Goku and a Vegeta on the team in order to get all of their full buffs, which obviously when it comes to their leader skill for the new unit, it's not really very inclusive of like Goku or Vegeta's. But obviously with an EZA, or a Super EZA I should say, they could add a bunch of stuff here as well, right? Like getting buffs for a Goku, getting buffs for a Vegeta, and then give them a separate one for buffs where like if all allies are Hybrid Saiyans or something like that, right? Because then they would have this buff for some of those other teams with their base passive, and then for the new team, they would be perfectly suited for that as well. Because obviously these guys, they have very few categories, but they are Hybrid Saiyans and they are Bond of Parent and Child, so they would be on the full 220 team. Again, I think this one is probably one of the less likely ones because, you know, we just got the first free-to-play anniversary Super EZA with the Zamasu Goku. I don't know if they would then do the one that came out 2 years later as part of the same celebration. But obviously this card, more so than any other card in the game, very much fits the theme of the new character, because it is just them again together in a different LR. So absolutely makes sense in terms of the theme, but whether or not we would actually see something like that this soon, I think is probably a bit more unlikely. More likely than this guy, maybe, I don't know. But in terms of likelihood, I think all of the rest of these ones have a pretty good possibility of getting an EZA as this EX part to help boost the Hybrid Saiyans team. And if not, hopefully they will be coming soon as part of other celebrations, because Hybrid Saiyans definitely needs these buffs, and this will improve the Gohan and then Goten and Trunks team like significantly. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said, there's a bunch of other Hybrid Saiyans. I'm sure I'm probably missing like a bunch of like sub EZA and other stuff like we could get. There's still the AGL GT Trunks and like the Tech GT Trunks, I think, that don't have their EZAs yet. But obviously that would be a buff for GT Heroes and for hybrids. There's those GT banner units, the Goten and Trunks and the Gohan and Goten, but they buff the family teams, so I guess really only the Gohan and Goten one would be useful, because the new card is on Goku family and not Vegeta family, although both of them getting EZAs would still be very useful. So yeah, let me know what you think. If there's any that I missed out that you think would make really good examples for EZAs or Super EZAs. I guess to be fair, I literally mentioned him when talking about the EZAs that they skipped out for the worldwide celebration with Broly, but obviously that's this Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, because obviously he's very similar to the actual main Gohan part of the new card, right, just being the teen Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. The problem with this guy is he's just a movie heroes support, so he doesn't really make sense for this team unless they obviously give him movie heroes or hybrids or something, right? And then when there's a movie boss enemy, I guess doesn't really tie in super well with the Buu Saga stuff, although just like the other Broly movie characters, he is on Buu Saga. So this guy would need quite a bit of a retool for his passive for him to be good on this new team, but he could still be good there. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Any other Hybrid Saiyan buffs you think I missed out, let me know down below. But hopefully we'll see some of these buffs upcoming very soon, if not part of the EX part of the celebration, and that will help out the team for the new LR massively. So let me know all your thoughts in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.